So today's video is going to be a completely different one from the one original planned, although it ties into it nicely even if accidentally. A leaked preview of the long-awaited book Imminent written by Lue Elizondo has arrived, and with it some juicy and interesting information regarding UFOs, UAPs and non-human intelligence. But before we delve right into it, thank you all for your support, subscriptions and likes. It helps the channel grow and spread the information as a small part of the collective disclosure efforts. A brief introduction of the author then. Lue Elizondo is a son of Cuban migrants to the USA, dissidents of the Castro regime. He holds extensive education with double majors in microbiology and immunology and minors in chemistry and mathematics, as well as experience in tropical parasitology. Lue joined the US military and worked as a counterintelligence officer and later on in a civilian post at the CS-15 rank, so a civilian equivalent of a full colonel. He was involved in the OSAP and ATIP programs, so Advanced Aerospace Weapon System Applications Program and Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. He gained the knowledge of the US government involvement with UFOs and alleged crash, retrieval and reverse engineering programs run behind the scenes. He is one of the key people behind the declassified 2017 UAP videos published by New York Times and has been an active actor pushing for disclosure of the existence of non-human intelligence for quite a few years now. His book Imminent, which is to be released on 20th of August, is a part memoir, a part summary of the collective knowledge we have available regarding UFOs, UAPs and alien life in general. This knowledge can be surmised from the list of chapters of the book, which we can see on the screen now. If Lue's credibility alone was not enough, the foreword was written by Chris Mellon, a long-standing government employee and a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense in the Clinton and Bush the Younger administrations. Now, on to the juicy bits revealed in the book and where to even start. Chapter 2, titled Colares, suggests Lue's ties to the so-called Operation Saucer carried out in 1977 and 1978 in the Brazilian city of Colares by Brazilian Air Force regarding a wave of UFO sightings in the area. These sightings allegedly involved civilians being struck by beam weapons from the unidentified craft, and claims of exsanguination of as much as 400 people are also tied to the case by some ufologists. Lue also mentioned radiation burns identified in people as a result of the cases. There is a mention of craft with nets and hooks abducting people and taking them on board. Next, we have a report of an M1 Abrams tank being hit and disabled by a beam weapon from an unidentified craft. Then again, we have a reference to Hal Puthoff, a scientist involved with the US government and studying the ties between the phenomenon human consciousness and what many people consider paranormal occurrences. Puthoff reportedly said that the Roswell crash was real and confirmed on the inside. There is a mention related to the Robertson Panel of 1953, which was a scientific committee advising the CIA and the US Air Force in regards to investigations of UAPs, and it apparently recommended the involvement of Walt Disney Company and media in general in an effort to debunk the UFOs at the time. Other mentions include craft in the form of what seems to be advanced drones capable of flying in and changing formations, as well as able to maneuver and almost tease both unmanned and manned aerial vehicles into possession of the military. In regards to the Roswell crash, the book seems to corroborate the reports mentioning 4 non-human bodies found at the crash site, as well as the crash being possibly caused by electromagnetic interference caused by human ground installations present in the area. The book also mentions biologics and studies on samples containing unusual organella, which apparently moved independently and seemed to utilize an energy source which is absent in the human body, which my assumption being a non-mitochondrial mechanism involved in this case. And speaking of non-human intelligent beings, the book mentions the so-called Nordic aliens or tall whites, who seem to be in charge of the stereotypical grey aliens, who seem to be subservient or perhaps act as drones and assistants to their masters. On top of that, there are references hinting that some officials in the American establishment consider the non-human beings they are aware of to be demonic in nature, although as far as I can tell, no further explanation on this is provided. In the field of science, the book mentions James Lakatsky, a senior scientist carrying out research for various government agencies and apparently fairly read in. He did mention that the USA have a craft of otherworldly origins in their possession during one of the Weaponized podcasts run by Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. He was involved in extremely advanced research projects including potential warp drives, advanced propulsion systems based on vacuum engineering, invisibility cloaking, and advanced metamaterials for aerospace applications. When asked why he did all the research, Lakatsky answered that people would be floored if I told you. Going off into territories referred to commonly as the Wu, Lue mentions extensive use of remote viewing as a technique utilized by the government units as an actual method of study of unusual and anomalous phenomena. This technique was apparently treated as a serious and legitimate tool by the involved parties. And returning to James Lakatsky, or possibly Jim Semivan, a believer in the paranormal aspects of the UAPs, since the book does not clarify which Jim we are talking about here, he apparently intended to brief the senior leadership in the DIA and DoD, and the briefing was supposed to include words like archangels, angels, demons, and the spiritual realm. Think of it and make of it what you will. I doubt we can approach this part of the topic fully rationally in any case, whether this is true or not. Last but not least, the book includes what Lue has mentioned a while ago, as the book has undergone the DOPSER process approving potentially classified material for release by the Pentagon. He had to edit out parts of the text, especially involving people and locations. He did not want to cut the material out of the book as such, so instead he opted for redactions typical for government documents issued, for example, via the Freedom of Information Act instead. This is a fun choice in my opinion, as it fits the prevailing tone in the ufology whenever the official documents are involved. So, even that brief preview contained a lot of potential bombshells and does not seem to be just a rehash of what was already known in the UFO circles. This would be indeed a very important step towards the actual disclosure, and I cannot wait to read the book in its entirety. As a happy coincidence, this video ties nicely into what I initially had in mind as the next video, a video dedicated to disclosure, what it entails and its possible consequences. Until then, see you all in the next video. Thank you for watching and feel free to like, subscribe and share if you like the content.